Attention home buyers. What's more important than being pre-approved for a mortgage? I'll tell you on this episode of Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast, coming up next.
You're listening to Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast with Bo Kaufman of RE/MAX Performance Realty, answering questions for buyers and sellers of homes and condos in Winnipeg.
Hello, this is Bo Kaufman, RE/MAX Performance Realty, your residential real estate expert in Winnipeg, looking after condos and houses, buyers and sellers. You know, when I got into this business about 12 years ago, the big tip that real estate agents could provide to their buyers was get pre-approved. Get pre-approved by a lender so that you're good to go, and that was a big inside track on winning some of these bidding wars. Well, that's no longer a big secret. Every buyer seems to know now that they have to get pre-approved, and so it is that most people that call me, by the time they call me, they've already been pre-approved. Good for you. That's excellent. But there's something even more important than being pre-approved. And what is that? It's being pre-approved by the right lender. And it can make a world of difference when you're looking for a house, when you're putting in an offer, and afterwards when you're trying to deal with whoever the mortgage lender is. Let me give you an example of kind of an extreme example, but it's real world. It happened to me a few years ago. And it's actually from one of the big banks, and you wouldn't think of it, because you think to this bank that a mortgage would be a main source of business. So anyway, this buyer came to me and he had a letter from a bank. And actually his parents were longtime clients, preferred clients of this bank. And so the buyer was going to look for a house, which was even back then was a relatively cheap house of about $120,000. So the bank letter said, you're pre-approved for $120,000, you're good to go. So we started looking at houses. And of course, there is a lot of bidding wars in that price range, even back then. And we finally find one, and we're about to put an offer in, and I told him to check with his bank because I was concerned about something. And he phoned his bank, and they asked some questions of him over the phone, and I see the expression on his face kind of get a little more serious. And after he hangs up, he tells me that his bank would not mortgage the house under 750 square feet. At $120,000, there isn't a lot out there in 1,000 square foot, variety. You would think that the bank would have told him this at the time. So it came as a bit of a surprise to him. Now, this may have been a bit of an extreme example, but there are other examples. I get people coming to me from financial institutions that are really just grocery stores, and they also do mortgages. Now, my advice to buyers always is deal with the expert in their field. If you're getting your furnace done, get a furnace expert. If you're getting roof done, get somebody who does this for a living. And mortgages are really no different. Just because somebody loans money for mortgages doesn't mean that they're an expert. Another example would be that once you sign up for a mortgage, what's their after-sale service? Are you dealing with somebody that you can deal with? If there's complaints, that you can actually talk to a person? Or will you be on the phone for a couple of hours trying to deal with somebody in other end of the country? So make sure that when you're shopping around, you're not just shopping for rates. What happens if you try and get out of the mortgage? What happens if you're locked in for 5 years? What is their penalty for getting out? Now, I've heard on very good authority that there was a penalty recently of $30,000 for somebody trying to get out of a mortgage. Now, you might not think right now that you might want to get out of the mortgage, but what if you get a job transfer? What if there's health issues? What if you lose your job? What if any number of things can happen? So before you sign a mortgage or before you get pre-approved, find out what the deal is. Find out what the penalty is. Can you pay it down early if you come into some money? Can you make an extra payment every now and then if you're inclined to do so? So make sure that all the aspects of the mortgage fit your needs. It's not just about the low rate. And to me, a big one is, are they responsive? If you have questions, last minute concerns, do you have somebody you can talk to? So two of the banks I will recommend right now, because they've taken the trouble of going out and hiring mobile mortgage specialists that I know of, and that's the TD and the RBC, Royal Bank of Canada. Both of them are very good. They're usually very competitive. Of course, if rates are a big thing to you, you definitely want to shop around. But I've got mobile mortgage specialists at either one of these that'll come to you. It'll come to your work. That'll help you fill out the application, and they're mobile. And that's a great service to have. And if there's problems and issues, you can call these people, and the ones that I know will answer the phone on a Saturday and a Sunday. Try and get a hold of a regular bank at that. Now, if you're looking for if you want no frills and you want the lowest rates, a lot of people do turn to a mortgage broker. But again, make sure you're dealing with somebody that will offer you after-sales service that sticks around, because your mortgage may very well end up at an unknown bank in BC, something you've never heard of and something you would have a hard time getting a hold of. So make sure if you're dealing with a mortgage broker, make sure you're dealing with somebody that's been around for a while and can offer after-sales service. So that's my advice today. It is really more important to get your pre-approval from the right bank or right lender than just getting a pre-approval. So if you're looking to buy a house or a condo in Winnipeg and you're kind of stuck at this point where you don't know where to turn for mortgage advice, give me a shout. Send me an email at boknowshomes@gmail.com or call me on my cell, 204-333-2202. And, we can discuss a couple of your options, and I'll give you a couple of names that you can turn to for proper mortgage advice. So that's it for this episode of Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast. Hope you've enjoyed. We're available on iTunes and on Stitcher, and I actually have a podcast app now available on the Apple Store as well as on Google Play.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast. All episodes are available on iTunes and Stitcher. When you're ready to buy or sell a house or a condo in Winnipeg, contact Bo Kaufman at Remax Performance Realty at 204-333-2202 or email at boknowshomes@gmail.com.
So till next time, bye-bye.